Okay, great. Um, so we discussed the API interface for data sources, and I read your last comment. Is everybody on the stand of the last comment in the Git repo?
Did you read that, Tabea?
Which repository are you referring to?
The OmnAIView repository pull request.
Well,
Pull
I
request
think
for this API description.
I was the first one to comment on that, right?
Yeah, but I commented on that. But I can reiterate what I wrote. So first of all, I think it's a great idea to use this async API format to describe the WebSockets. It's more useful. It's more useful than using. Oh,
Yeah.
did you also
We
comment?
already answered on that.
Yeah, that's I didn't read that.
Yeah, so last comment might not be the best question to ask when it comes to being up to date. So I agree that we might want to not abstract away everything before we know what data formats look like. As this will be part of future discussions, I opened a dedicated discussions for how to describe interfaces that a server needs to provide, so that we have a point where we can collect existing interfaces that we currently support. And from there, we can have abstraction suggestions that we might even be able to vote on.
Yeah, I mean the fundamental idea of how it should work in the end is that in the GUI, I can press a plus button or whatever. I have an interface to add a new data source. And with adding a new data source, a dialog pops up that gives me a drop-down menu of different types of data sources that I can add depending on which data source type I select. The form that I have to fill in my my configuration, so to say, might change. And just to reiterate, the reason for us not to abstract this out right away is that if we now abstract something out and we put a lot of effort into it and we figure out with the first couple of data sources that we add, we made a huge mistake in the abstraction, then all of that work is basically obsolete. So let's just try for the first version to add the devices that we already know shall be added, and then just go from there.
I got a question about that. I read the devices that you wrote in the comment, and I am not sure what you mean with different data sources, because as far as I see, is all of these data sources are time series data streams that can be abstracted, and
Yes.
at least for them we could have a general approach to have all these devices in one interface.
Well, that's the point. We don't. The first, well, even though they are all referred to as data source, the parser that is needed to take one of those data source slices, whatever we might want to call them, and transform that into something that the GUI can process. Like each parser that we need to write for a dedicated format would be a different type of data source.
But why do we have to write different parsers when?
Well, because we have different formats.
Yeah, that's my question, because the OmnAIView scope has a backend that provides a WebSocket format. I don't know which part of Horus provides the format, but like, isn't it the same that all of these devices need a backend that provides data via API or WebSocket, and we don't currently have those backends?
I think I can clarify that.
Okay.
So first of all, you are right about what you think. So there is a device, there is a backend server, a device server, a data stream server. This data stream server interprets the raw data coming from the device and providing a WebSocket for a GUI. Now, even though we could potentially, at this moment, put all of them in the exact same format, I don't think that this is actually what we want, because right now those WebSockets that we have from those devices already, they look a little bit different. Now we can use two different approaches here. The first approach would be we refactor all of the backend services to provide exactly the same API, which is what you refer to. They should just look the same. But if we do that, we would make the implicit argument that if a data source doesn't fit OmnAIView, it's the data source server that has to be changed. You see what I'm getting to? I want us to use, just now, I want us to use the data stream servers that are already there, just as they are, and then have this adaptation layer within OmnAIView. Because that is what we are, of course, when somebody else wants to add their device to OmnAIView, we expect them to follow our examples on how the data stream servers work. But we also want to have some flexibility in the OmnAIView front-end interface. For now, as I prioritize those things already in my posting in the pull request, let's just manage to implement the def data stream server and the current OmniScope backend, or the mini Omni, or however we want to call it, and integrate those two, and then go from there. I don't think that more planning right now is necessary. Yes, it helps to think about that right now, and we can have way more discussions about that. But I don't think that chiseling something into stone right now is the right moment.
So for now, we create documentations not about how another data streamer should look like, but more about how the current data streamers are looking like.
Yes. Let's just first implement what we have, and then we know a lot more. Because this whole process of writing this program, it's we don't know what the program will look like, and I think it might be a little bit too early to actually materialize thoughts about that, because we will just see how the software works while we are writing it.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no further questions, since this is the first meeting that we recorded, I would argue that this recording should be uploaded into a Nextcloud, into a separate Nextcloud folder, which is just dedicated to this open source project that has public access rights. And then we might want to run the audio of this video through a speech-to-text analyzer. I don't know right now which one would be the best for it, or whether that's necessary right now. At some point, this makes sense to always run it through a speech-to-text analyzer and post the link of that discussion under the threads that we referred to in this meeting.
Okay. Great.
All right, then I think the next step is to actually implement a dev data stream server in the dev data stream server repository. Just a really minimalistic thing.
Actually, I already implemented that. I would just change it to the a more generic server instead of implementing it like the OmnAIView backend.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can have two endpoints in this dev stream server. Okay, so the dev data stream server shall be in the end will be a collection of multiple WebSockets that sort of mock a LoRa device, that mock a Horus device, that mock an OmnAIView device. They can just all go into the same program. And then when you start the program, you can pass a parameter saying, okay, dev data stream server, behave like OmnAIView with 3 channels and a sampling rate of blah, blah, blah on port, blah, blah, blah. So you can also launch multiple dev data stream servers on the same machine, on different ports, with different configurations that we can test the front end according to that. Alrighty.
I think we're done. Thank you for your informations, and have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
You too. Bye.